My son-in-law called it just a get-together. Not a party, not a celebration, just a casual evening. Nothing formal. He said it easily, like that explained why I was not invited to my own daughter's anniversary dinner. Later, I would stand in a crowded patio, feel the weight of my bag at my feet, and understand how carefully that word had been chosen. My name is Marianne Holt. I am 48. He called while I was folding laundry, his voice polite, almost cheerful. He told me they wanted to keep things simple, no pressure, no expectations. He added that my daughter did not want me worrying about gifts or money. I said I understood, because that is what I usually say when I am being managed for my own good. I had known about the anniversary, of course. 10 years is not nothing, no matter how softly you say it. I had already written a card and set aside an envelope. That part came naturally to me. I am used to preparing, even when no one asks. After the call, I sat at the kitchen table longer than necessary. I tried to convince myself it was practical, even kind. Still, something tightened in my chest. The familiar feeling of being useful but not included. By early evening, the card was still on the counter. My bag rested by the door, open, waiting. I told myself I would only stop by, hand it over, and leave quietly. That was the plan I made before I knew how quickly a simple visit could turn into something else entirely. I picked up my bag and reached for my keys, already stepping into the role I had learned to play long before this night. I learned early how to be useful in ways that did not ask for permission. When my daughter needed someone to watch the baby during her night classes, she called me. Not because I was free, but because I would say yes, just until I find someone else. She said, someone else never came. I showed up anyway. When my son-in-law's voice dropped into that careful tone, it usually meant money. "We're short this month," he told me once. Standing in my kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug he did not drink from. Just a small loan. "We'll pay you back fast." I transferred $600 before he finished the sentence. He thanked me like it was a favor I had offered. Not a gap I had quietly filled. There were always gaps. "Can you grab diapers on your way? Can you cover the deposit? It's only temporary. You're better with paperwork. Can you talk to them?" I never argued. I never raised my voice. I just handled things. That became my place in the family. Not front and center, but just off to the side, ready when something wobbled. Once, I tried to say no. It was late, and I had already worked a full day. My daughter sighed, sharp and tired. "I thought I could count on you," she said. The words landed heavier than any request. I drove over anyway. No one ever asked how I was managing, or what I postponed to keep everything running. I was praised in passing, then forgotten the moment the problem disappeared. That night, after the call about the get-together, I saw the pattern clearly. I was needed when something had to be fixed, paid, or smoothed over. I was invisible when things were meant to look perfect. I folded the card once more and slid it into the envelope. My hands steady. Showing up had never required an invitation. It only required me to keep playing the role I had been given. The one I was beginning to understand far too well. The explanation came in pieces. Never all at once. My son-in-law called again that afternoon. His voice was calm, practiced. "I hope you didn't take it the wrong way," he said. "We just wanted to keep things light." "Light how I asked," he paused. "You know how these things get. Expectations, gifts, money. We didn't want anyone feeling uncomfortable." I understood exactly who he meant. Later, my daughter texted instead of calling. "It's not personal, Mom." When I didn't answer right away, she added, "You tend to stress about details." That word again. Stress. As if asking who was paying or how something was being covered was a personality flaw. When I finally called her, she sounded tired, already defensive. "You always make it about numbers," she said. "It's supposed to be a celebration." I ask because I don't want surprises, I said. She sighed. See, that. Right there. The conversation shifted without either of us acknowledging it. She talked about wanting the night to feel easy, about not wanting to manage anyone else's feelings. I heard what she didn't say. Easy meant predictable. Easy meant no one asking questions that pulled at loose threads. My son-in-law joined the call briefly, his tone polite but firm. We really appreciate everything you do, he said. This just wasn't the moment. Not the moment for honesty. Not the moment for the person who usually made moments possible. After we hung up, I felt the denial slip away. This wasn't about keeping things simple. It was about keeping them controlled. My role had been quietly reassigned without my consent. I set my phone down and looked at the envelope on the counter. They didn't want my presence, only the absence of what I represented. And for the first time, I didn't rush to correct that imbalance. I told myself I would keep it simple. I wasn't going to confront anyone. I wasn't going to ask for explanations that had already been carefully rehearsed without me. I would walk in, hand over the card, say congratulations, and leave before anyone had to decide what to do with my presence. I texted my daughter first. I'm nearby. I'll just drop something off. She replied a minute later. You don't have to. Mom, not come in. Not we'd love to see you. Just that I won't stay. I said when she finally called. She hesitated. Okay. Just okay. That pause told me everything. I wasn't expected, but I wasn't forbidden either. I fit best in that narrow space where I caused the least disruption. I placed the card in my bag, the envelope already sealed. Inside was a note I had rewritten twice. Careful to keep the words light. No advice, no reminders. Just congratulations and love. Nothing that could be mistaken for weight. Before leaving, I stood by the door and adjusted my bag on my shoulder. I reminded myself to smile, to keep my voice even, to leave quickly if things felt strained. I wasn't going as a mother who deserved a seat. I was going as a guest who planned to vanish on cue. That decision steadied me as I locked the door and headed out, rehearsing the brief version of myself I intended to present. The moment I stepped inside, I knew. This wasn't a casual evening. It wasn't something thrown together at the last minute. There were long tables set with care, candles already lit, a cake large enough for a speech, and guests dressed like they had planned to be here all week. 10 years was written everywhere without being said out loud. My daughter saw me before I reached the table. Her smile froze. Just for a second, then reset into something practiced. Mom, she said, too brightly. You made it. Just dropping this off, I said, already holding out the card. She took it quickly, like she was afraid I might change my mind. You didn't have to come. I know. Her husband appeared at her side, placing a hand on her back. Hey, he said, nodding at me. Good to see you. His tone was polite, careful. The way you speak when you're managing a situation instead of welcoming someone. I looked around at the guests. Some familiar, some not. A cousin waved awkwardly from across the table. Someone raised a glass. I heard my daughter's name followed by applause. This looks nice, I said. She glanced past me, already distracted. We wanted it to feel special. But simple. Simple. The word landed differently now. I set my bag down by an empty chair near the edge of the table. I stayed standing. I could feel the unspoken agreement forming around me, the silent hope that I would deliver the envelope and disappear before anyone had to explain why I wasn't part of the picture. My daughter leaned in, lowering her voice. We'll talk later. Okay. There's nothing to talk about, I said. It was the truth. The explanation had already happened in everything I could see. She straightened, relief and irritation crossing her face at the same time. Her husband cleared his throat. We're about to do a toast, he said gently. It might get crowded. I won't be in the way, I said. That was the moment clarity settled in. I hadn't misunderstood. I hadn't been left out by accident. This was exactly how it was meant to be. And, as the room filled with clinking glasses and laughter, I realized how much effort had gone into making sure I was not part of it. I stayed near the edge of the table, my bag resting by the chair where I had set it down. I kept my posture loose, my attention soft, the way you do when you don't want to draw notice. That was when my daughter moved closer. She didn't look at me. She laughed at something someone else said, lifted her glass, and stepped just far enough into my space to feel familiar. You don't have to wait, she said quietly. You can leave whenever. I know, I said. Her hand brushed the back of the chair, then it dipped, quick and practiced, toward my open bag. The motion was small, almost casual, the kind you miss if you're already looking away. I wasn't. She slid something inside and straightened. Still smiling, still facing the table. I'll walk you out later, she added, like she'd done me a favor. I didn't move. I didn't say her name. I didn't even look down. My body went still in that way it does when the mind needs time to catch up. Her husband leaned over, voice low. Everything okay? Fine, she said before I could answer. He nodded and turned back to the group. The moment passed. The music rose a little. Someone clapped. The party kept its rhythm. I took a breath and felt my heartbeat settle into something manageable. I adjusted the strap of my bag on the chair, careful not to open it. I didn't want anyone watching my hands. My daughter glanced at me then, just once. Her eyes flicked to the bag and back to my face. There was no apology there, no warning, just expectation. I understood then that whatever she had done, she believed I would handle it, that I would smooth it over, fix it, carry it quietly the way I always had. I nodded at her, slow and neutral. Not agreement, not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. She turned away, satisfied, already moving on. I stayed where I was, holding myself steady, knowing the moment had passed but the consequences had not. I waited until the noise swelled again, until no one was paying attention to where I stood. Then I lifted my bag and moved a few steps away, close enough to the wall to seem occupied, far enough to be unseen. I unzipped the front pocket slowly. Inside was a small velvet case, heavier than it should have been. I didn't open it all the way. I didn't need to. The edge of polished metal caught the light, followed by a flash of stones arranged too carefully to be anything ordinary. An anniversary piece. New, expensive. My chest tightened. Not from surprise, but from recognition. I thought about the phone calls over the last year. Things are a little tight. My daughter had said once, laughing like it was temporary. We'll catch up next month. Her husband had been more precise. Interest went up. He told me quietly, just until we get past this part. That part never ended. I closed the pocket and pressed my palm flat against the bag until my breathing evened out. The picture formed quickly, because the pattern was already there. A missing item, an uninvited mother, a bag placed conveniently nearby. I knew how this story would sound if it were told without me controlling the ending. I slipped the bag onto my shoulder and walked toward the restroom, nodding at a guest who smiled politely and didn't know my name. Inside, I locked the door and finally opened the case. The necklace filled my hand, heavy and unmistakable. I imagined the price before anyone said it out loud. Several $1,000s at least, more than they had admitted needing, more than anyone would lend without questions. I didn't feel anger. I felt something cleaner, a line drawing itself where there hadn't been one before. When I stepped back out, my daughter was near the table again. She glanced at me, then at the bag, then away. She trusted me to carry it. She trusted me to protect her from the consequences of her own decision. I adjusted my grip on the case, steady and deliberate. For the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about what would keep the peace. I was thinking about what would end this pattern, even if it meant letting the truth land where it belonged. I didn't confront her. I didn't raise my voice or pull her aside. I knew exactly how that would end, with apologies shaped like excuses, and everyone waiting for me to smooth things over. Instead, I waited. My daughter's jacket hung on the back of the chair she had claimed earlier, light-colored, easy to reach. I stood beside it as if I were just another guest looking for somewhere to put my bag. When she turned to answer someone behind her, I moved. The motion was small, practiced. I opened the velvet case just enough to confirm what I already knew, then slid it into the inside pocket of her jacket and closed it carefully. No rush, no hesitation. I wanted it to be found exactly where it belonged. Her husband's voice drifted over. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said. It was the first honest answer I had given all evening. He watched me for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded and stepped away, already relieved that nothing was erupting. I picked up my bag and returned to my place near the edge of the room. My hands were steady. My thoughts were clear. The waiting felt deliberate now, not passive. A few minutes later, my daughter touched her jacket pocket without looking. Her fingers paused. She laughed too loudly at something someone said, then reached inside again. This time, more carefully. She looked at me then, just a glance. Her eyes searched my face. Quick and sharp. I met her gaze and gave her nothing. No warning, no accusation, just stillness. She turned away, her shoulders stiff, her smile slipping at the edges. The party continued around us, unaware that its center had shifted. I didn't know who would speak first or how it would unravel. I only knew that I wasn't carrying it anymore. The truth was no longer in my hands. It was back where it started, waiting for the moment when pretending became impossible. The music cut off first, not abruptly, just enough to draw attention. Conversations stalled mid-sentence as two uniformed officers stepped into the room. They didn't rush. They didn't look alarmed. That calm was what changed everything. "Good evening," the taller one said. "We received a report of a missing item." My daughter's hand flew to her mouth. "My necklace," she said. Her voice shook in a way that sounded practiced. "It was right here." Her husband put an arm around her shoulders. "This is probably a misunderstanding," he said, already managing the room. Then he looked at me. "She just came by for a minute." The officer's eyes followed his gaze. "Ma'am, is that your bag?" "Yes," I said. "Do you mind if we take a look?" I set it on the table without hesitation and stepped back. "Please." The zipper sounded louder than it should have. The officer went through each pocket carefully. Wallet, keys, receipts, the card I had placed earlier, nothing else. He nodded once. "All right," my daughter laughed. "Too quickly. See, I told you." I spoke before anyone could fill the space. "You should check the inside pocket of her jacket." Her smile faltered. "Why would you say that?" "Because that's where it is," I said. My voice even. The second officer looked between us. "Ma'am, may we—" My daughter hesitated, then pulled the jacket off the chair. Her hands shook as she searched the outer pockets. Finding nothing, she paused, then reached inside. The velvet case slid out and landed softly on the table. No one spoke. The sound of it was enough. The officer opened it, glanced inside, then closed it again. "This the item?" My daughter nodded. Tears spilling now. I must have put it there by mistake. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The taller officer cleared his throat. "We'll note that the item was recovered and no theft occurred. But I do want to be clear. Moving someone else's property and involving them without consent is serious." He looked at all of us, not just her. After they left, the room stayed quiet. My daughter turned toward me, anger replacing embarrassment. You made this public. She said, No, I replied. You did, her husband exhaled sharply. My daughter's shoulders slumped, the story she had planned collapsing under the weight of its own simplicity. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. No one stopped me. No one followed. Vindication didn't feel loud or satisfying. It felt like standing upright after years of leaning. My balance finally my own. My daughter called the next morning. We need to talk, she said. I don't, I replied. The words surprised us both. She went quiet, then softer. You embarrassed me. I stopped carrying something that wasn't mine. I said, That's all? Her husband took the phone. Let's calm down, he said. We can fix this. I'm not fixing anything anymore. I told him. No loans, no holding things for you, no silence to keep the peace. He sighed. So that's it. That's the boundary, I said. We didn't apologize. We didn't reconcile. We agreed on practical things only. Separate checks. Clear plans. No surprises. I would see them when invited, not when needed. A week later, my daughter texted. Can you watch the kids Friday? I answered. I can come for 1 hour if you're home. She replied. Okay. It was the first honest exchange we'd had in years. Here's the life lesson I'm keeping. Love doesn't require you to disappear. Help, given without consent, turns into debt no one plans to repay. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're clarity. If this story felt familiar, like it or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And leave a comment if you've ever chosen peace over approval. I didn't walk away angry. I walked away upright. I kept my time, my voice, and my dignity. Walking away didn't make me lonely. It made me free.